Peace to the family. Thanks for joining. Give me a few seconds. I just got to alert just a few people that I'm online and give a chance for some people to come in. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? Haven't been on for a while. Um, got to check to see if you hear me, but I haven't been on for a while. I'm trying to do a few more shows, so um, hope you get ready for that. Um, but it's good to see everybody. Miss y'all. um, I try to do good scholarship. Turn this off for now. I try to do good scholarship, and good scholarship is different than what I see a lot, which is barbershop scholarship. Barbershop scholarship is when you're going over talking points, um, and you don't do any research, and you just repeat what other people say. So let me just check YouTube to see if you can hear me. Uh, and so I would say, you know, 70% of the material that we see on YouTube when we start talking about scholarship is barbershop scholarship. Most of the stuff that you see on YouTube is reaction videos, meaning you're looking at someone else's content, someone else's research, and you are commenting on that. And that's what a lot of people are doing. There are a lot of great shows on YouTube that give primary information or at least introduce primary information. And so they're in the 30%. But most of the things that you actually see pushing ecological views, let's see why this says that. Okay, I have to change the title. Give me a second. Let me just take a look at what's going on, and then I have to change the title. But that's really not important to what we're doing. So just give me a few more minutes. I'm just trying to start. That you actually see. Okay, great. So I see myself, and I see Barn Dog. And thanks, Barn Dog, for coming on. Good to see you, my brother. I miss you. So the title of the show today is Dr. Leonard Jeffries Jr. speaks about the Abos. So I've had a long relationship with scholars, and we've just had the ASCAC conference, and I get a chance to talk to scholars. Now, there's a group of people who pick and choose who they believe scholars are. And the reason why they pick and choose who scholars are, they try to marginalize Black scholars, African scholars, PhDs for what they deem is the experts. I get a lot of my information from the experts. But somehow Black PhDs, people like Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who ran a department for over 35 years, taught thousands of students, even people like Dr. John Henry Clark, who also taught tens of thousands of students. Then there's Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop, who's written several great books: African Origin and Civilization, Civilization of Barbarism, Black Africa, The Basis for Economic and Federated State, The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, and several more, who was even featured at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. For some, those are not experts. So at some point, we would like to see who the experts that they are saying are the experts. And then the problem is with that is that an expert, let's say a person who has a PhD, is usually an expert on a very, very narrow interest, research material. They have passed all the preliminaries, the comprehensive exams, all of those things to be kind of general, but they're really experts on only their dissertation, right? Everything else is passing the comprehensive exams. I know about the process because many of my the people that I have worked with in the past who are PhDs, they tell me about the process. I know about the process from doing a legal case for someone who they kicked out of a department. I know the process because my former wife is a PhD. I know the process because my son is in a PhD program, right? So I know the process. And I know the process from the many people that I work with. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be addressing what Dr. Leonard Jeffries says. Love son, Tamika, how you doing? And I see my brother Rakim. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, so I have a few people. I didn't expect a lot of people to be on today because I haven't streamed in a while. I wanted to say something to Love Son. Hey, there's a rumor out there that the reason why Puffy's hair is gray is because they're dyeing it to make him look like he's older. It's a ploy. Just like you dye your hair black, you dye your hair gray to kind of remove it as if he's a very virile person. But okay, so let me just get back to the topic. I just wanted to say hi. I see Joe. Peace, Joey. Thank you. All right, so let's get back to the topic. So my topic tonight is Dr. Leonard Jeffries speaks about the Abos. So let me share my screen if I can and put this up. And it's not long because I didn't plan to be on long tonight, but my purpose is to show a short interview that I did with Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who we haven't heard a lot from in a while. So let's see if I can share this. Give me a second. Great. Because I'm using a new program and I don't have a whole lot of experience with it. So give me a second. All right, great. So new website information. Okay. Select window. Okay, screen one, movies and TV. Let's see this. Let's see, great. Allow. Great. And let's blow this up. So what does Dr. Leonard Jeffries think about the Abos? Let's just play it. Right?
I had a chance to speak with Dr. Leonard Jeffries about the notion that Africans were here before the transatlantic slave trade. This is a notion that has become viral in the United States using elements of Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work. They came before Columbus. Dr. Leonard Jeffries was chair of the Department of Black Studies at City College for over 30 years, employing a staff of continental Africans, Caribbean Africans, and Africans from America that had expertise in a variety of disciplines. I gave him several topics to talk about, and he chose to speak about the Aborigines as not being Africans. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who was my professor, taught us the relationship between Africans and the Aborigines of America from several important works, including Dr. Lerone Bennett's Shaping of Black America, Benjamin Quarles' series of works on the African Americans, Eric Williams' Capitalism and Slavery, and John G. Jackson's works. Dr. Jackson was a faculty member of the department. In addition, Professor Edward Scobie, a former mayor of Dominica, invited Dr. Ivan Van Sertima several times to talk to the students about his works. I was privileged to attend several of the lectures in the department and his last presentation at the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture of the New York Public Library, so I am aware of his work. Dr. Jeffries wanted to make clear his position, and he said he didn't need much time, but will make his position clear. He and his department have taught tens of thousands of students African American studies, and to rebut his short comments, one would have to find someone his equal. Further, he was a student of Dr. John Henrik Clarke, and used his curriculum in the classes, and Dr. John Henrik Clarke's department at Hunter taught thousands more, along with Dr. James Turner's over 30 years of Cornell University. Not to mention the African Heritage Studies Association and the National Council of Black Studies. Today, a few popular YouTubers are trying to change the narrative, but with what academic training and with what scholarship. We are lucky to have Dr. Jeffries still able to answer questions, and we hope that people can appreciate his short thoughts. The way these Black Aboriginals, Black Indians, and Black Native Americans, or whatever they call themselves, are using YouTube and social media to push their fringe ideas about the identity of our people is not academic or scholarly, but signal-boosting, unsupported facts. If they were serious, which they are not, they would write their positions in an academic journal, or at least contact the many experts and associations. They won't dare. What they will do is to talk to people who are not experts in the field of the transatlantic slavery and peopling of America for their statements on the subject. What is happening is a few people with no university training with unsupported ideas will flood YouTube and social media to scam our people. I have outlined the steps they should take, and African American scholars don't have to defend their work. There is a process that these fringe thinkers have avoided, and this shows they are not serious and attempting to minimize the transatlantic slave trade and add confusion.
It's just a general question. When I was at Black Studies, well, in the department taking classes, right? We had several conversations about the Indigenous Americans, right? And one of the major books you had us read is The Shaping of Black America by Lerone Bennett, right? Right. And then at some other point, we entertained Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work that came before Columbus, right? I mean, the main man of America, the United States. Do you consider those people African, or whether they're brown or black or whatever, do you consider those people African?
The indigenous people?
Yes, yes. No. So Dr. Jeffries was asked, do you consider the indigenous people in America African, right? No matter what their shade of color are, were they Africans? And let me just play it again. Dr. Jeffries says, came before Columbus, right? I mean, the main man of America, the United States. Do you consider those people African, or whether they're brown or black or whatever? Do you consider those people African?
The indigenous people?
Yes. Yes. No. The African slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, as it's called, right? It contributed Africans to America. Right. So there's this big dilemma out here where people are trying to say that Africans were already here. How could that be?
Well, some people can say it, and that's their thing. But I'm holding up on that. I got a lot of other things.
All right. Well, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it right. We're gonna leave it. A lot of people saying a lot of things, right?
Well, they always have.
Right.
I don't think I do so.
But as far as what Dr. Leonard Jeffries Jr. taught, right?
Right.
And what you know of Dr. Clark and Chancellor Williams and John Jackson and others like Lerone Bennett.
Lerone Bennett, but also leaders, the leaders from the Caribbean,
Right.
and they're great scholars.
Right. So you're not going to minimize the transatlantic slave trade to some people believe we're already here.
Well, people have their. In other words, I'm not going to put my good effort into trying to, create some Africans. I'm not going to put my good effort into trying to, create some Africans out of the Native Americans. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
Dr. J, I love you. You keep doing the work. But if people do want to know, Dr. Jeffries can be available. But again, he does have no time to create Africans out of Native Americans.
Well, a lot of people put a lot of effort in that. Yes, that's right. Van Sertima, people like that. That was their thing. So.
But they misunderstood Van Sertima, I think.
Yeah.
He was talking about hypotheses and possibilities. He didn't say it was certain, did he?
Right. Yeah. That's the problem.
I want to take a quick break from Dr. Jeffries' interview to ask the public.
Okay, so I'm going to continue on. He's got just a few more words that he wants to talk to us about. But let me just check the chat. What do you think about Dr. Jeffries' short, candid statements? He's 87 years old now. He's 87 years old. And so now he doesn't take a lot of interviews. He's done teaching. And he's really not interested in a lot of things that he doesn't think is scholarly. And so he certainly doesn't watch YouTube, and he's not familiar with all of the characters, the groups of people. He's not familiar with that. So I wanted to kind of let him know what is going on, since he is stopped paying attention, not on a lecture circuit anymore. So I wanted to give him an idea of one of the biggest troubling issues that we have, that the African ancestry, the transatlantic slave trade, is coming under attack, being minimized by groups of young people who haven't done the work, meaning they have fanciful ideas, but they're trying to skip the process instead of talking to the great elders, the great professors, right? What they're trying to do is avoid all of that and go right live to the public with their ideas. And that has been a problem for a long time. This thing that Brother Morpheus helped me with understand, something called barbershop scholarship, where what happens in the barbershop and the hairdressing saloons become now reality in Black life. Um, and these people can talk to the experts. There is a process, but they refuse to talk to the process. They refuse to. What they want to do is go on YouTube, make a name for themselves, wear their costumes, right? Or put up other people's work and videos and have other people talk about it and just pretty much do reaction videos, right? And then when there are many students like myself, we are minimized, right? We get juxtaposed to people who may or may not have a GED, may or may not have finished college. Most of them both fall into both categories. Many of them haven't had done any substantial work on scholarship, meaning going into libraries or writing. Many of them cannot write. Many of them cannot cite. Many of them have not been in libraries since they were in junior high school, right? Don't understand that the whole library process has evolved. Most of them are Google scholars, right? They figure they can do stuff with their fingers, come up with things. Now we have ChatGPT, we have AI, which I actually introduced to the community, by the way, right? In a debate, by the way. But I didn't think it was going to be used the way that is being used, right? I was trying to get it into the community as a fact checker for some basic facts. But nevertheless, what we have today is entertainment. Nothing more, nothing less than just entertainment. Now, we are confused about the entertainment, right? Entertainment goes on entertainment shows, but it doesn't belong in scholarship. Scholarship, you have to cite your work, right? And many times it's not even our original ideas, but we're building a case based on cited work. And Dr. Ivan Van Sertima is a great scholar, right? But people confuse his book. So the next part of this is I'm going to begin to talk about Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work, right? And in the beginning, I'm going to say something that I don't believe that 70% of people who talk about Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, right, besides never meeting him, never having the experience of him being a professor, teaching in a class, which I did, right, which I was able to talk to him, question him, right, and followed him for years, right. Most of these people on the internet never got past his title. They came before Columbus. Never read his introductory material. That's 70% of these people who are talking about Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. And this part of the presentation is just going to deal with that aspect of it, and then we'll listen to a few more comments of Dr. Jeffries. Okay, so are you ready? Are you ready? There you go. What did Born Dog says facts. Love Son says they are not even hooked on phone. Would you say on? Yeah, they're not even hooked on phonics. That's they missed that because you know why? Because of the way that they mispronounce material is bananas in 2025. More so, the spelling errors, right? I can see if you're writing on a phone and you're writing something quick. But when you're doing a whole presentation and you can't spell, why is that acceptable? Why is that? Why is that acceptable for our people? You can't spell, can't pronounce words, don't cite material, but be wrong and strong on topics. And it shows, because when we talk about they came before Columbus, if you ask them what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima really said, did Dr. Ivan Van Sertima say that the people of Mali, Abu Bakari, made it to the New World? Did he say that? No. And I know that because you didn't read it. So that's 70% of these jokers. Now, then there's another group of people. We were always in America, in the Americas, meaning we evolved in America. I'm not going to entertain that. That is just bananas, right? Then there's another group of people who say that Africans came earlier, 10,000 years, 20,000 years to America, and have been fighting the Asiatics. But they never tell you how and who and what of those Africans came to the New World and how. How, right? That requires either walking over land bridges or ships. What ships? What Africans from where came here 10,000 years ago? How did they come? Y'all soak that up like a sponge because you don't want to do the work, right? Now, everybody can have a theory and everybody can have ideas. Dr. Ivan Van Sertima clearly says that he has theories based on other people's theories. Is a theory an absolute proof? That's how I know that many of these people that you watch, right, I was going to say just God. Many of the people you watch have no college. They missed that step. I know that they have, at best, GEDs. And even GEDs, you have to pass the test. Then there are some, more than you think, that neither have a GED nor college, but they're in front of you. They have all the reasons in the world why they missed that step, but it's 2025. But they have no shame that they want to come on, and because, you know, one of the skills that they did manifest expertly is their mouths. And they want to come up and they want to run their mouths authoritatively. And they're still, and that's all they're doing, running their mouths. Because the fact of the matter is, 90% of the people on YouTube who deal with history and these subjects have never written a paper expertly on the subject. So I'm asking the audience, right? Why do you go with these people? Okay, some of you are going to say for entertainment. I understand that. But above the entertainment, right? Why do you repeat what they say? Right? And then other people might say to someone like myself, well, you know, Brother Reggie, you're always asking for donations, cash apps. You know why? Because my information is worth something, right? I've been around this community for 8-9 years. Very rarely have I been impeached. Yet I have been used to impeach scores of people, right? but my information itself is not valid. Why? Because the game has to be sold and not told, right? Don't pay me, pay the people who do the reaction videos, pay the people who are controversial, pay them, but don't pay the people who can prove that they've been doing this work for 35, 36 years. And me just being able to talk to Dr. Leonard Jeffries the way that I do, right? A casual conversation with my old professor, my extended father. They can't do that, right? They might see someone like him on the street or pop up on him, but you can see that there is no love, no interaction, no nothing. It's just a mic in the face. So let's go and watch how I kind of dissect some of this information about who about Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, who is a great professor, and he's under attack. But he's under attack because people misrepresented his work, but his work stands on its own, right? Without the reaction, the people saying that Dr. Ivan Van Sertima says that we came to America and there were blacks in America before the European. You didn't read Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work. He has theses, hypotheses. He has some conclusions for you to investigate. That was the purpose of his work. So let's see what I have to say with my computer voice.
It was certain, did he?
Right. Yeah, that's the problem.
Wow. Before I start, I have to say, peace, Brother Garfield podcast. Thanks for showing up. Brother Garfield, by the way, he puts original research, right, on his channel, right? He can show, he's an expert now on the 12 tribes. And he's showing that some of these groups of people, right, was not even connected to Israel, right? At best, Yahweh, because they were in Saudi Arabia. They weren't in Canaan. And the time period in which they put these people is wrong. So, Brother Garfield, I would definitely recommend and commend the work that he does because he's an educator. And he cites his sources. He spells correctly, right? He pronounces the terms. He puts it in chronological order, right? I respect him. I respect Ankh, right? I disagree with Ankh a lot, but you have to understand that at least when Ankh speaks and you disagree with him, you have to get past him with facts. You can't okie doke him. So all of us are learners, even myself, right? Even Garfield, even Ankh. But you can't just do the okie doke on these people. And you got to get past them with facts. That's all they ask. Garfield comes on every Sunday. Show me your facts. He doesn't even scream anymore. He doesn't even get excited anymore. He doesn't even curse people out, right? Then there's other groups of people that I definitely like. Of course, Camdiverse. I like Camdiverse's work because Camdiverse will connect what the African scholars are saying to the African American scholars, right? And you can't impeach Camdiverse. I know some of you may disagree, right? But his work is very good, and it's cited. He tells you where he gets the information from. Don't disagree with him. Disagree with his sources. All right. So Garfield, shout out to you. Thanks for coming on. And on Sundays I'll be on your channel when I can get my 3 minutes So let's hear what the rest of Dr. Jeffries has to say in my commentary.
I want to take a quick break from Dr. Jeffries' interview to ask the public, did you actually read Dr. Van Sertima's book, They Came Before Columbus, or did you just stop at the title? Dr. Van Sertima never said the Africans made it, but he concludes they did based on a long string of hypotheticals on sea travel by the ancient Egyptians and the Phoenicians and tools such as the compass. Dr. Van Sertima said that the idea came of travel this way. One man came forward from a fishing village on the western border of Mali. He lived on the edge of the sea, he said. There were seasons when it was still and smooth as a lake of glass, and the problem was not the winds and the waves at all, but the great calms. A big ship could sit on the water for days, like a stone. Small boats like his had traveled on the ocean, and once, caught in a storm, he had drifted for a few days until he came to an island. The king listened to this with great excitement. But the old man finished his story by saying that the island was small and poor, as barren as a sandbank, and that no one lived there. An Arab captain who had come up the Niger River to Timbuktu and had heard of the king's great interest, said there was truth in the old man's tale, that he had heard of similar islands visited by North African sailors, but that they also were small and poor, and the people who lived on some of them were simple-minded folk. But these, he assured the king, were not the lands of the great ocean. They merely stood on its edge. If one sailed on and on, perhaps one would then come to a vast new world on the other side. Dr. Van Sertima continues in another section. At Timbuktu, which was approachable by both land and water, visited by both caravans and boats, the Black emperors kept a magnificent and well-furnished court. Here were a great store of doctors, judges, priests, and learned men that were bountifully maintained at the king's cost. And hither were brought diverse manuscripts of written books out of Barbary, which are sold for more money than any other merchandise. Because of all these factors, the court tradition of Mali should be taken seriously. This tradition, which was dramatized in the previous chapter, has come down to us through Al-Qalqashandi and the Masalik al-Abasar, the works of the scholar al-Umari, an Arab of Damascus who spent his early life in the service of the Sultan of Egypt. He quotes the words of the then governor of Cairo, Ibn Arnri Hajib, who questioned, "Can Musa on this matter?" In fact, much of what is known of the memorable pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 comes from the works of al-Umari. Like the Meccan pilgrimage, Abu Bakri's expedition was done in a grand style, involving perhaps as many vessels as the caravans of Kankan Musa 13 years later. But leaving only ripples on a very far shore, an enigmatic chain of artifacts and influences which, like resuscitated mummies, are beginning at last to haunt us with questions. It seems our people love a good tale, and Dr. Ivan Van Sertima compiled one with both facts and fiction. How do we forget this in making such a big deal that Africans actually made it to the New World? This is problematic again, when Dr. Van Sertima never said the Africans actually made it. On the other matter as to whether if Africans made it earlier, we don't have any evidence of this. What Africans? So why make it real? Possibly, Africans from Oceania with their ship technology made it. However, you can't say they were Africans. These are humans who are dark with African phenotypes, but far removed from Africa. They were black Asiatics who made it to Oceania, who were originally Africans, as all humans were, but admixed and changed with their environments. Barbershop scholarship turned into YouTube. Scholarship does not met the academic rigor. It amazes me how many people hear something and just repeat it without investigation. Scholars like Dr. Jeffries and Ivan Van Sertima and hundreds of great scholars that look like us investigate by research in libraries, museums, and fieldwork and cite their sources. Let's return to the great elder Dr. Jeffries' final comments. If you disagree with him, find a great scholar to refute his short comments, and please don't bring one not his equal.
People get things a little bit confused.
He didn't come into your department of Black Studies, right? When we have experts, we had more than 20 professors, right? Experts, most of them African, to say that, to make a big deal of the Native Americans. But he was honest with us. See, that's the difference is.
Well, that's the problem with a number of people that get caught up into.
Like origin.
Even though Malcolm
Yes.
is not just a local boy.
No, his mother is from Grenada, right?
Yeah, so,
But that doesn't mean that she is Indian, Native American.
right.
It means that she is a person of the transatlantic slave trade,
Yes.
right? And she may have been mixed with Native people of Grenada. She may have. But where's the evidence?
Right.
When you taught us, it was evidence driven. It wasn't personality driven, right? You would bring in the best. It wasn't because someone was just saying something.
Right.
They would have to present the evidence. That's what we learned.
Yes.
Is that changed now?
No. But it is a lot of stuff going on. Now with this new technology, people say,
Yeah. And overpower real scholarship and real research. That's what's happening. They're overpowering it because they're playing to audiences.
Right.
So I was happy to be a student of yours, Dr. J. I think I learned a few things about
We had a chance to do many movements, which is
I had a chance to
Okay, so let me stop sharing the screen. And believe it or not, I'm not going to be that long, but I am going to make a couple of points. Okay, so let me just stop sharing the screen if I can. All right, great. Stop sharing. Okay, great. All right, so let's go over just a little bit of what we talked about, or was talked about in this short video that I made, and of Dr. Jeffries' comments. Now, about Abu Bukhari, who was the predecessor of Mansa Musa, who had two exhibitions. One exhibition went out, never returned, and then he went out grand style with hauled out tree trunks, right, on the Atlantic Ocean. Now, let's go back to the story that the African elder told Abu Bukhari. He said that the problem with the Atlantic Ocean is not the waves, right? The wind, it's the calm. He said big boats, if they went out there, they would not make it. They would sit on the Atlantic for days. Big boats. Now, does that sound scientific at all? Does it sound true or fanciful? But this is what was told to Abu Bukhari. Worse, an Arab came down the Nile, right? Because they were expanding Islam, and he's the big to-do. And he says there's some truth in what the griot said, right? But they're simple. These are simple people. But let's go back again to what the African elder said to him. He said that there was a time where he went out on the Atlantic Ocean. Watch this. And there was a storm, and he got lost, and he landed on a desolate island, right? And he was there for days. Family going from West Africa to the Caribbean, even on a Gulf Stream, is more than days. And you would know that you're on the Gulf Stream, right? Because you would be moving. If there was a storm and you had a small boat, waves in the Atlantic Ocean can go to 35, 40 feet. Your little log boat is how high? At best, 3 feet, 4 feet, based on the tree. The chances of survival is not very good at all. More so, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima in his earlier chapter, and I'll bring it up. He talks about the Phoenicians. He talks about the ancient Egyptians. He talks about the compass. All that's fine, right? All that's fine, but there was no direct destination. The Arab told him that if you sail on and on and on and on, you might reach another side. So with these ancient 13th century, I would say, barbershop tales about Abu Bakari and maybe 1,000, 2,000 people, right? Left Africa to go on an expedition to seek out what's beyond the horizon. Now, we have people in our community who, one, believe that they made it to the New World. But now you're going past what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima was saying, right? Because Dr. Ivan Van Sertima couched his thinking on theories and hypotheses and sparse evidence, right? That made connections. You know, he talked about Montezuma. There's a lot of skin games being talked about, people being dark skinned and things like that. But there was a part of the video where he said, reading from him, because I put in his text, that there was more questions. There was more than answers. So let's see if I can find that part. And yeah, I'm very sure. Okay, there it goes right here. Okay, let's play this part again. So let's share. Share. Right? Share screen. So this is what he does say. Share window of screen. I got to select it. I'm going to say movies and TV. And I'm going to allow. And there you go. And I'm going to blow it up. So let's start here. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So let's start here.
Bakari's expedition was done in a grand style, involving perhaps as many vessels as the caravans of Kankan Musa 13 years later, but leaving only ripples on a very far shore, an enigmatic chain of artifacts and influences which, like resuscitated mummies, are beginning at last to haunt us with questions. It seems our people love a good tale, and Dr. Ivan Van Sertima compiled one with both.
So let's go back. This is Dr. Van Sertima's words, right?
A grand style, involving perhaps as many vessels as the
Okay, so he said perhaps as many vessels as the caravans of Mansa Musa, Kankan, right? Perhaps.
Caravans of Kankan Musa 13 years later.
That's 13 years later. From the second expedition, did he go to, he became a Muslim. He went to Cairo and Mecca, right? Okay.
But leaving only ripples on.
Now he goes, but leaving only ripples. Let's listen to what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima said.
A very far shore, an enigmatic chain of artifacts and influences, which, like resuscitated mummies, are beginning at last to haunt us with questions.
Okay. He used the mummy, the resuscitated mummy, in that chain of artifacts, right? And ultimately left us with questions, right? And that's what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima said. How could anybody just stop sharing? Enigmatic chain of artifacts, right? That he is linking together, and it leads and haunts us with more questions. How could people in 2025 mischaracterize Dr. Ivan Van Sertima by saying that Dr. Ivan Van Sertima was certain that we came here to the Americas from West Africa, based on what he said, based on even how Abubakari's reasons for going. So I am saying this: 70% of these people never got past the title. They came before Columbus. They didn't need anything more. They just needed that. Another group of people read parts of it, but then misread it. Okay. Another group of people come here and say, not just Mansa Musa's expedition, we came here even earlier with no facts, right? Just other people's theories, no research of their own. Well, I can expect that because they can't. They haven't been in the library for years. Show me one of these pseudo-judo experts. Shout out to Jed for giving me that word, the pseudo-judos. Not one of those pseudo-judos have you ever seen in a library, in a museum. Now, you've seen the people that we work with, right? You've seen Garfield in museums, right? You've seen Ankh in museums, right? You see Smash in museums, and shout out to Smash Rockwell, right? One of the other better channels, not one of the other better channels, one of the great channels, right? That I come to and I learn, right? You don't see any of these other people who are doing these shows anywhere next to scholarship. But you believe it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pull up, I'll try to pull up Ivan Van Sertima's work, and we can go through a little bit of that. Let me see who else is on. Mika, how you doing, sister? Peace, Mika One. How are you? And I don't have a lot of people on today. They Look Crazy TV. Peace to you. Peace to you. Thank you. Of course, the Barn Dog. And let's see who else. Solomonic TV. Shout out to him. On his channel, he read through some of my. He's read through my paper at the Journal of Pan-African Studies. So he actually read it. And of course, my brother Rakim 777. So let me pull up, and of course, Love Son. I love Son. And let me see. And Brother Garfield passed through, and I so appreciate that. And Jeremiah Kekare, if he's not watching it, he is going to watch it. He's one of the best Medu Neter grammar teachers under Dr. Ricketti's school with Baba Bonacci. And shout out to them. If you want to learn Medu Neter, you really want to learn Medu Neter, go look up their school, Medu Neter and Thinkific. And you can find it. And if Jed if you're in there, if you put up a link to your school. And why do we learn things like meta nature? Well, meta nature helps us um, understand what we call Nile Valley civilization, particularly that civilization that they call Egypt or Tawi or Kemet, from their own words. So we don't need intermediaries to help us understand what ancient Africans who were 5,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago were saying, right? And for the most part, there's a large agreement between African scholars, African American scholars, and Egyptologists on what is being said. The disagreement comes with the pseudo-Judos. That's the disagreement. The ones who can't read, the ones who put their hands on the artifacts and go, those groups of people, but they're not going to read, but they're going to put their hands on it and they're going to get the spirit and vibrations of it. And that's what they need. They don't need to read anything. So they're going to skip the writing. They're going to just go to what the statue looks like. And then they're going to put their hand on the wall. And then they're going to do their little chanting. And they're good. Hallelujah. And don't let there be a word like Emin or Amen that they can read, right? Because that just really does it, right? But believe it or not, family, 60%, more than 60%, they couldn't even show you the word Hotep. They wouldn't even know where to find the word Ma'at. But they will, and Kemet is even harder to find. It's not in most museums. It's only in certain collections, right? I haven't seen Kemet in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. That word is there, but it's in hieratic, right? And that is another skill set, not even a meta nature. So they will brush your teeth, come here, and don't know what the word looks like, nor Hotep, nor Ma'at, nor Isfet. Come to the museum with me when I do a tour, right? I'll show you the words. I'll read the words to you, right? So you don't have to put your hand on a stone and chant. Chanting is going to get you nowhere. So let me see if I can pull up what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima said. So anybody that you approach with they came before Columbus, please be one of those people that got past the title, right? Then know that what he said was not conclusive. So give me a chance to go and find this. Let me go check the chat to see how we're doing. My chat is working. Anybody got any comments, questions, or maybe it's not working? Please, somebody at least let me know that you can hear me and the show's going on. Or you had to leave because there's some pseudo-judo stuff that's exciting. Or that what I'm saying is just too complicated for you, right? So anybody in the chat got something to say? Help me out while I pull this up. Because we're going to pull up his book. See if we can pull up his book. Can you at least put in the chat that you can hear me? Okay. Can anybody see? I don't have any communication, so I don't even know if this is still live. Okay. Let me go and check. Give me a second. Now, since you're not communicating with me, I have to go and check to see if I'm still live. So let's go over here. Play. Give me a second. Okay. I see Brother Joey says that he can still hear me. So great. So now let's go through they came before Columbus. And then I will yeah. Okay, so let's share the screen. And by the way, I'll put up my Cash App. So let me just do that now before I forget. And if anybody wants to support me, they can. So give me a second to do that before I put that up. So let's go into this chat. Okay. Okay. So my Cash App is Dollar Reginald Mabry, right? And I think it's cash.app/ great. And family, I'm not asking for a lot, just lunch. I'm not trying to finesse you. I'm not trying to give you any secret codes or anything like that or raise you from the dead. I am just going through some simple exercises to help you free your black minds. So let's bring this up again. Great. Okay. And share the screen. So it says PD. Is this it right here? Allow? I don't know if this program that I'm using is okay, so that didn't show. So stop sharing. Let's try it again. And thank you for your time. I have to kind of figure out how to use this agent a little bit better. There you go. Here it goes. And here you go. Okay. Okay, family. So this is the book that came before Columbus, and I think this is this one is one of the early editions. So let's go down to it. It's not very long, but it's about 215 pages, I think. And what happened to it? Share. I lost my share. But we're not going to go through that. We're only going to spend a few more minutes. Stop screen sharing. Let's do it again. Oh, shoot. Wrong one. Okay. Let's see. This one. Great. Okay. Let's go over here. Okay. So the important thing is what we're going to do is we're going to go to there's about the author. And some of the works that he did, Egypt Revisited. He had a great series. Okay. Okay. Let's see what part of this I want to deal with. This is this talks about his beginnings of examining the work and pretty much looking for connectedness. So he says over here, a generation of work in the area had sorry, let's see if I can blow this up. I see on the screen it's not blown up. So let's just blow this up a little bit. Okay. Okay. That's a little bit too much. Right. Okay. So let's do this. So, a generation of work in this area had unearthed a large number of Negroid heads in day, gold, copper, and copal sculptured by pre-Columbian American artists. The strata on which these heads were found range from the earliest American civilizations right through to the Columbian contact period. Accidentally, stylization could not account for the individuality and racial particulars of these heads. Their Negro-ness could not be explained away, nor in most cases their African cultural origin. Okay, so all humans are African, ultimately, right? So their African cultural origin, but he's talking about the way that they look, and he's calling it Negro-ness, as if there's one way to look like a human, which is an African. Their colorization, fullness of lip, prognathism, scarification, tattoo markings, beard, kinky hair, generally fleshed nose, and even in some instances, identifiable coiffures, handkerchiefs, helmets, compound earrings. All of these have been skillfully and realistically portrayed by pre-Columbian American potters, jewelers, and sculptors. Maybe that's because they look like that. Terracotta sculptures of faces was the photography of the pre-Columbian Americans, and what von Wathenau had done was to open new rooms in the photo gallery of our lost American ages. No longer was the African chapter in the American pre-Columbia history an irrecoverable blank because of the vicious destruction of Native American books. Were visible witnesses of a vanished time, and they were telling us a remarkable new story. Weiner and von Wathenau, two ostracized German American scholars 50 years apart, their works unknown to each other, joined forces that day, in my mind, to establish a base for the hypotheses that Africans were here in the Americans before Columbus. Okay, and then thus began my research. So what we don't have is both Weiner and von Wathenau, right, saying that they were Africans. We don't have that in this paragraph of Van Sertima, but we do have Dr. Van Sertima saying that. So someone will have to go and find what those two Germans say. Then he goes, the word Negro has become a very sensitive term. Sure. Loaded with negative connotations. Whatever its original meaning, a specific race of Africans or just black-skinned people of general African descent, that meaning has deteriorated into the popular imagination. It is not surprising that many blacks, particularly in North America, now react to the word with varying degrees of pain and disgust. I therefore consider it necessary to explain my particular understanding of the word and use it and my use of it in this book. Okay, so the term black, although it's fashionable and more acceptable term, presents problems in several contexts. To speak of a black skeleton would be ridiculous. Skin colorization as such means nothing in the study of bone and other ancient physiological remains. The classical distinction between the three main racial categories, Negroid, Mongoloid, and Caucasoid, have to be determined by reference to certain structural features, measurements, and relationships that are not derived from superficialities of color. So, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima does not like the word black. Black also means nothing when we are talking about gods among the Native Americans. Tizcatlipoco is a black god because black is his symbol and ceremonial color. He is not African, as is Philly, the Mexican god of jewels, whose indistinguishably Negro features were sculpted into green stone by the Mexicans, while his kinky hair was cast in pure gold. So one of them is African and one of them is not. And none of them are African direct from the continent of Africa. So that is problematic, but that's what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima is saying. I have sometimes find hyphenated terms similar to those used by certain French African writers, such terms like Negro African, useful. I've also used hyphenated terms like Negro Nubian and Negro Egyptian. Some may object to this. Why should one append Negro to Nubian? Either the Nubians are Negroid or they are not. This is a simplification of complexities that one faces as an anthropologist and a historian. The terms are used in the book to highlight the racial identity of Nubians in the 25th dynasty, stand in contradiction to attempts by several anthropo historians, particularly the British scholar. So he is trying to outline or gloss the terms that he is talking about. Let's see how he ends. These racial distinctions would not need to be so heavily emphasized were it not for the attempt to deliberate and sustained over the centuries to deny the contributions of the Black African to ancient Egyptian civilization. So he uses the word black again that he does not like, he ties it to African, right, to ancient Egyptian civilization. Obviously, these terms are in transition and certain confusions exist. All a writer can do is do in as well, I guess, in a situation is to avoid further confusion by examining his own particular understanding and use of the terms. Okay. Okay, so he talks about Columbus here. I don't want to talk about Columbus. I want to see, besides what I read on chapter 4, is there anything else? Because in this book, he what he's doing, he does a really, really great job of telling you what was happening in the world at the time of Columbus. Does a good job of telling you what was happening in pre-Columbian based on the facts at that time period. So I have nothing really, I have no real problems with Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's scholarship. I don't, because I know it was within that period of time. It was what the other scholars were saying, right? And his point is just to examine the phenotypes of what he thinks are African, because I guess he don't like black, in pre-Columbian. Okay, so I'm just reading this into the record because he's talking about Columbus, which is not really relevant to, but they came before Columbus. So he's going to talk about Columbus's concepts. So let's just see right here. In the Cape of Santa Ana in Guinea, which is below the equator. I guess torial line, but equinoctial. I don't know this term. Equinoctial line, equinoctial line, and after that he would navigate to the west, and from there would go to the Hispaniola, in which route he would prove the theory of the King Don Juan, and that he thought to investigate the report of the Indians of the Hispaniola, who said that there had come to Hispaniola from the south and southeast a black people who have the tops of their spears made of metal, which they call guinan. So I wanted to find this part is because a lot of people said, yeah, the people, the Africans in America, black people, the original people, our people, they had spears topped with gold, and make that a big thing. And I just wanted to tell you where it is in the book. And it's not a big deal in the book, but it's a big deal for the pseudo judos, right? It's a big deal, right? Reports of the Indians of this Hispaniola who said that there had come to Hispaniola from the south and southeast a black people who have the tops of their spears made of a metal which they call guinan. So here is again barbershop talk. Taking is pretty much hearsay, and Dr. Van Sertima is correctly giving you where the hearsay come from, but the problem is you people, right? Because you didn't read the book, right? You didn't get past the first, the title of the book. You don't know where the points are in the book, but you know what people were saying. They run around talking about, yeah, there was black skin, but Dr. Van Sertima don't even like the color like black, right? I guess he would prefer African, right? But then, they run around. They came from the South. They love that. They came from the South, and they have black skins. Black spears with gold tips. Put it in context, family. He's just giving you what the myths are, the stories are, but you people are believing it and making it something more than what it is. Okay? So this is where Columbus and them talk about the black spears and stuff like that, right? And the so-called black people, right? Columbus was lost. Columbus was making observations. Columbus is not a scientist, right? Columbus work is translated from Spanish to English. Columbus was not always truthful. Columbus wanted to be continuously be funded, right? Columbus was overemphasizing, right? So what I'm doing, and I'm not going to be long, right? It's just that I want to let you know that you should read the book, right? I'm trying to find anything else that's important, because we like gold, we like black spears with gold tips, right? We like Montezuma. Okay. So inspired by this discovery of the Southern Sea, Balboa and his men decided to push further south along the isthmus under the shadow of Querequa. They came upon an Indian settlement where, to their astonishment, they found a number of war captives who were plainly and unmistakably African. These were tall black men of military bearing who were waging war with the natives from some settlement in the neighborhood. Balboa asked the Indians whence they got them, but they could not tell, nor did they know more than this. The men of this color were living nearby, and they were consistently waging war with them. These were the first Negroes that had been seen in the Indies. So from the account, Dr. Van Sertimer is saying that that these Balboa and them thought that these were Negroes, and this is the first account, right? And then Peter Martyr, the first historian of America, reports on this remarkable meeting between the Spanish explorers and the blacks of Darien. The Spaniards who wrote Martyr found Negroes in this province. They only live one day's march from Quaquaquah, and they are fierce. It is thought, of course, Africans with spears and stuff, they got to be fierce, and with black skin, they got to be fierce. It is thought that Negro pirates from Ethiopia established themselves after the wreck of their ships in these mountains. The natives of Quaquaquah carry an incessant war with these Negroes. Massacre or slavery is the alternate fortune of these people. Martyr uses the word Ethiopia as a general term for Africa. So he's just reading into the record, right? Hearsay, right? Or observations. None of this is conclusive, right? These are actually translated into English from Spanish, right? The word used by Garcia, esclavos, means slaves. But it's important to point out here that this party of blacks who were caught away from the settlement in Quaquaquah were not slaves in the loaded post-Columbian American sense. They were war captives. The blacks also killed and made war captives of Indians they caught in these raids along the isthmus, as Peter Martyr points out. That was the fortune of warriors now. So what this is establishing by using conclusory labels that these people were black. Do they mean that they're dark? Does it mean that they are black like us? Does it? No, none of that's true, right? These are human beings, and human beings in the how can I say, who are exposed to the sun will develop melanin in their skin, right? They will also develop melanin look because of the foods that they eat. But does this mean, where in this show that they came from Africa? Where in this show that they came that can help us to tell us where these so-called black people came from? And maybe they were always there, or maybe they even came from Oceania, from the Pacific Islands, right? Because the Pacific Islands have a particular type of kind of like a two-hull. There's a main boat, and then there's these two hulls that allows them to glide and to kind of buoy themselves on the water, right? But none of this is conclusive as to where these people came from, because it's not there. But we know that they're categorizing them as black and Africans. These Spanish sightings of Africans in the New World and the later discovery by anthropologists of distinctive black settlements along the American seaboard outside of the mainstream of the post-Columbia slave complex constitute only one strand of this evidence of pre-Columbia contact between Africa and America. An overwhelming body of new evidence is now emerging from several disciplines, evidence that could not be verified and interpreted before. Has it been in 2025? Has it been verified? There's a lot of interpretations, right? So the question is, I I don't mind what Dr. Ivan Van Sertima is saying, but I do think it's conclusory, right? You do have comments from people calling them Negroid, but what's a Negro? But the area of where these people come from, who they come from, is really not here. So there was nothing that we read that says that they came from Africa. We know that they are dark skinned, brown skinned, right? We know that. We know that from accounts they have full lips, kinky hair, got black, gold coated black spears. But none of this can you say that these people are us, right? Now, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima started writing this in 1976. So what we want, we know that they use black in their artwork. So they venerated black, and that's fine. But we hear a lot of talk about no stylistic accident can account for the undisputed Negro-ness of the features. From full, vivid lips, the darkened grain of the skin, the prognathic bone formation of the cheeks, the wide nostrils, the generously fleshed nose, down to the ceremonial earrings and the cotton cap, Candamosa noted on warrior boatmen on the Gambia, the American artists have definitely caught the face of this African. And it was found in Mexico. Now, this is very stereotypical. There's not one way to be African. Africans have a diversity of skin color, diversity of hair, diversity of features, right? Nothing in this says that ties this to where these people came from directly. Now, it says the core tradition of Mali and documents in Cairo tell us of an African king, Abubakar II, setting out for the Atlantic in 1311. He commanded a fleet of large boats, well stocked with food and water, and embarked from the Senegambia coast, the western borders of this West African empire, entering the Canaries Current, a river in the middle of the sea, as the captain of a preceding fleet, of which only one boat returned, described it. Neither of the two Mandingo fleets came back to Mali to tell the story, but around the same time, evidence of contact with West Africans and Mexicans appear in strata in America in an overwhelming combination of artifacts. All right, we got a big problem. 1311. Africans are supposed to have left Mali, made it to America. Made it to the Americas. So obviously, these groups of people, did they skip the Caribbean? Did they skip the closest island? Right, the closest island coming off that stream, which would have probably been Barbados, right? Off that stream, skip that. Or did they go to these islands, Barbados, and all of them, all of the islands in the Caribbean, right? How many islands? I don't know, 30 islands or so, maybe more. So they landed on one island and then they multiplied like bunnies. And then they came to the new land. They just acted as if, how can I say? They did better here than the Moses story. They did better here than the Moses story of multiplying in the Delta. Not only did they multiply on one island, it's like they multiplied all throughout all the islands as if, and then we know there's wars. So it seems like the Atlantic was so great without hurricanes and storms that all the ships made it. So let's say he left with 1,000 people, people. Let's say he left with 5,000. So 5,000 people came, and even with 5,000, they were able to multiply like bunny rabbits from island to island to island to see all the islands, and then get to Mexico, right? And become as if the other people weren't there, that they weren't fighting them, but they said they were fighting them, but they was able to overpopulate it. So this sounds like David and Goliath. It sounds like the Nephilims. It sounds like the Hebrew population, the so-called Hebrew population of the Delta, right? It's just, and this is 1311. So by 1311, to the time that the Europeans come, which is 300 years later, blacks are all over the world, the New World. So, hey, tall guy, Hero, peace to you. Pan-African Designs and Apparel, peace to you. Yarak, peace to you, man. Good to see y'all. Kwame Maat Ray, wow, peace to you. Oh, I got my family in the building. Thank you. Right? So my whole point of they came before Columbus, and I'm not going to go further, but you should read the book. But what I'm saying, 70% of the pseudos that are out there talking about they came before Columbus never read Ivan Van Sertima's book. They didn't get past the daggone title. They came before Columbus. They didn't read to show all of the problematic hypotheticals, the conclusions, the labels, right, that he's using, even though he's collecting it, right? But there is a lot of hypotheticals here, a lot of conclusions. Not enough. What is this? The Mandingo fleet? Okay, so neither of the two Mandingo fleets came back to Mali to tell their story. But around the same time, evidence of contact between West Africans and Mexicans appears in the strata in America in an overwhelming combination of artifacts and cultural parallels. A black-haired, black-bearded figure in white robes, one of the representations of Quetzalcoatl, modeled on a dark-skinned outsider, appears in paintings in the Valley of Mexico, while the Aztecs began to worship a Negroid feature mistakenly for their god Tezcatlipoca, because he had the right ceremonial color. Negroid skeletons are found in this time stratum in the Caribbean. So these people from Mali, no matter how many boats, Dr. Van Sertima is concluding that they made it. And he's also concluding that they multiplied like bunny rabbits throughout all of the Caribbean and infected the Americas and found themselves in Mexico. I think in scholarship, what happens is you take evidence, but then you begin to try to prove or disprove statements. And do y'all agree? Let me just check the chat. Do y'all agree that this is surreal, unbelievable? That that hauled out trees put on the Atlantic Ocean made it through the Gulf Stream, which is like a river, and they made it not just to the Caribbean, but to all of the Caribbean islands, and they multiplied like bunny rabbits. And then they made it to Mexico. Now, the other side of this is that there were dark-skinned, brown-skinned people living in the Americas became dark, maybe because possibly they came from Oceania originally, but also because of their long exposure to the sun, and that the people who are making observations are much lighter because they're coming into Europe, right? We do have the Arab story told by Mansa Musa. We do have that story, and that's the only story that we actually have because the boats did not come back. What we don't have is any Islamic literature in the Americas. What we don't have is the languages of Africans from Mali in the Americas at this time. We don't have any of that. We don't have any artwork of those Africans that spread like bunny rabbits talking about their homeland and wanting to come back to the homeland. We don't have any artwork, any connections in the Americas at that time about Africa. But we do have people that Europeans are saying look like Africans, look like Negroids, look black. Now, our audience is on YouTube. Our audience is on YouTube. It's a lot of barbershop talk. All you got to do is just read something highlighted, right? And then say Dr. Ivan Van Sertima said it, and these are the sources that he gave, but they're really observations, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to read They Came Before Columbus. I want you to see where these concepts come from, and I want you to now look in modern scholarship to see if any of this stuff has been verified. Not that, don't blame Ivan Van Sertima, right, for anything, right? Just try to validate this, because the barbershop scholars, the Googlers, now the chat GPTs who don't know how to actually ask a question because they didn't pass their GED, they haven't written anything, right? Okay, so now what is this? Okay, in this new vision, the Atlantic is an open sea long before Columbus. It's an open sea, comma, long before Columbus. But accidental drift voyages by African men, except in those cases where they brought fruit or grain with them, alien to America, and this happened in prehistory at least twice, would in themselves have a very minimal effect, if any. Planned expeditions, however, or expeditions intended for other destinations in Africa, which were blown off course, would be a different matter. They would bring not only a substantial but a select group of aliens to American shores. This may account for the presence of Negroid women in pre-Columbia America. These women, of course, did not rule out interbreeding between the Africans and the natives, as terracottas showing American Indians with a Negroid strain attest, but their coming managed to prevent a clean obliteration of the evidence of an African presence through its total absorption into the genetic pool of the American and to preserve through generations several distinctive racial traits. So now they have to account for the women. Okay. Again, okay, so let me just do this. Let's stop sharing the screen. I always have to do this. Okay, so one of the things that we would do is we would list what is different from the culture in the Americas, and there are different cultures, different indigenous groups, and we would look at what their cultural practices are, what their differences, and then we would look at the practices of Africans. And then what we would do is we would start comparing to see if there was any Malian culture, any Islam, any traditional African culture in the regions where they're talking about, right? One of the things that jump out that is completely problematic is the sacrificing of peoples in the Americas. That's not the way it happens in Africa, right? Sure, there's warfare, but these people who were sacrificing their own peoples for population control, for ritual. We would look for ritual traditions in Africa and compare it with these Native American populations, these Abo populations, to see. We would look for language, right? We would look for language. We would look for, of course, belief systems. What happens to Allah? Why isn't Allah from some of these groups that were Muslim that came? And if not those groups, the traditional African groups in the Senegambia area. That Dr. Ivan Vesterman does not discuss. Now about brownness, and you people know where I'm going. You pretty much know what I am going to do. So I'm because the culture is just so different. So where am I? Yeah. Here it is. So now one of the things is okay. Okay. So let me just say, I'm just going to Google Olmec art. Google, just for illustration. Olmec art. Olmec. Olmec civilization. Art. Give me a second so I can pull it up when I get it. Because these people came from Mali, right? That's what they're saying. They came from Africa, right? Particularly the Senegambia region, right? So they may have been Muslim and traditional. So let's just say, let's put images, and I'll share my screen. Okay. So, so share my screen. Mm-hmm. There you go, share screen. Okay. Okay, so now we have more pieces in museums than we had in the previous periods. Okay. Okay. So we have the Olmec heads. We have Olmec art, right, of this period. Okay. So we would do lots of different comparisons between, again, language, culture, right? And then we get DNA samples, and no one has ever proven or shown that the materials, the bodies found in Olmec civilization have any connection to the DNA of the Mali people, right? Senegambia. No one's ever done that, so we can rule that out. Some of you are really, really great with DNA statistics. I should have prepared to bring that up, but I did not. I did not. I wanted to bring up some of the things that Dr. Ivan Van Sertima said and what he didn't say. And so so this is what we have of Olmec civilization, right? So all of a sudden, if they were African, they completely forgot African culture, right? From the period that 1311, where this occurred, to the findings of multiple cultures in this region. They completely forgot African culture, right? So all of a sudden, in this period, the Africans became something else. And that's why Dr. Leonard Jeffries says, I'm not going to try to find Africanness in these groups of people, right? So if you didn't see the presentation of Dr. Jeffries, let me just go back to that. See if I can go back to that. If it's sharing, I'm going to stop sharing. And because some of you are new, so some of you didn't see what Dr. Jeffries said. So let's go back to that. Share. Okay, so movies and TV. Okay. So let's go back to see what Dr. Jeffries says. It's not going to take too long, right? Because Dr. Jeffries does not agree with this stuff. Okay, so here we go. It's not going to take too long. He didn't speak. Okay, all right. Dr. Jeffries talks about the Abo confusion. Let's get to it. It's not that long. Okay. All right.
We had several conversations about the Indigenous Americans, right? And one of the major books you had us read is The Shaping of Black America by Lerone Bennett, right?
Right.
And then at some other point, we entertained Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's work. They came before Columbus, right? I mean, the main man of America, the United States. Do you consider those people African, or whether they're brown or black or whatever, do you consider those people African?
The indigenous people?
Yes.
America?
Yes.
No.
No. The African slave trade, transatlantic slave trade as it's called, right? It contributed Africans to America. Right. So there's this big dilemma out here where people are trying to say that Africans were already here. How could that be?
Well, some people can say it, and that's their thing. But I'm holding up on that. I got a lot of other things.
All right. Well, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it right.
Okay, wait.
We're gonna
So let me fast forward.
And
Lerone Bennett, but also leaders.
Atlantic slave trade to some people believe were already here. To some people believe.
Let me get.
Right.
And they're great scholars.
Right. So you're not going to minimize the transatlantic slave trade to some people believe were already here.
Well, people have their. In other words, I'm not going to put my good effort into trying to, create some Africans. I'm not going to put my good effort into trying to, create some Africans out of the Native Americans.
Dr. Jeffrey said he's not going to put his good effort in trying to create some Africans out of the Native Americans, right? And me and him, we can talk about it. He was my professor. I know who the professors were in the Department of Black Studies at City College that dealt with this There were over 20 professors, mixed Caribbean, African Americans, uh, uh, and Africans from the continent. Anytime that we had a question about that, they would have faculty meetings. They would discuss it. Um, Ivan Van Sernen was asked to come in to talk to us by Professor Edward Scobie, and he did several times to discuss his book in front of Dr. Jeffries's classes, all of the classes. But we would pull all the classes in to listen to him, and then we would ask him questions. I could just say that that we took his work as meaningful because he had collected from different Europeans' accounts of what was going on in the America as far as their accounts. But this is not really the age of expert science. It was a lot of observation and calling people Black, African, and Negro, and then dealing with this whole thing of this Mali expedition. And then all of a sudden it's being so expansive like as if the people weren't, the native populations in the Caribbean didn't exist, and these people just spread like bunny rabbits. And then it doesn't answer the issue of Caribbean groups fighting amongst each other, right? Now you have this other new group of people that's spreading like what was happening in the Bible in the Delta, right? 6 people come in, seven, several families come in, and then hundreds of thousands of people, how can I say, leave Egypt in the Bible story. Well, this is even more expansive than the Bible story, right? You have thousands of people coming in, but now you have millions of people moving from island to island from 1311 to the period of when to 1492, the first observation. So from 1311 to 1492, in that short period of time, now we have millions of Africans doing something that they didn't do in Mali, right? It's spreading all over the world, and then finding themselves now in Mexico, right? I think scientists of all disciplines look for more plausible explanations than what we find in, these early works. And we have not seen a work. If anybody in the chat can put in a work that conclusively verifies that Africans were here in America before Columbus, right? And conclusively verifies that they had Malian ancestry. Please put that in the chat for the people, because we're all learners. I'm not going to fight with it right now. I just want to see your source. If there is no source that you can think of, that's because there is no source. But if there are sources, right, or books, yes. Our brother Imhotep, who passed away, he wrote a book on this. There's Dr. Ivan Van Sertima's early book that came before Columbus. And there are theories, but if you can let us know a book that conclusively say that they were Malians, or even if they're not Malians, they were Nubians or they were Egyptians, right? Please put that out. But please know that that these are theories and hypotheses, and people write. They try to make money. They try to make a name for themselves, right? But the barbershop scholars that we have, and the hairdressers, because we got a few women scholars that, not women scholars, but women in this community that entertain us, right? Where are the facts, right? And what research have they done? So what we do have is a lot of parakeets making up these things. And so it's swelled up because many of our scholars don't really want to entertain this group of, young people who want to make video after video after video, disagreeing with them, calling them names, right? They don't want to deal with. They would rather not. They would rather deal with the students in their classrooms than the populace, who often act like savages, and they don't have any. I mean, some of them might have some good intentions, but they don't have any qualifications. But we believe those people without qualification, especially the ones that can't spell, right? Especially the ones that can't write, especially the ones that have no evidence that they've been in a museum, that they passed college, that they've written a paper. We love them the most. And then we love the ones who certainly haven't went anywhere, but we do have some of the what I would call the the opposition to leaving Africa alone from the Americans, except for the enslaved trade, right? Because that contributed the majority of the population to the Americas. But those people that say they came before the African slave trade, look, some of them travel. I mean, you have some of them like Top Cat. They're going to see the pyramid structures of Mexico and stuff like that. But other scholars like scholars like Dr. Jeffries and them, Dr. Clark, Dr. Chancellor Williams, Dr. John G. Jackson, they are not entertaining this because there is no credible evidence for this, but in the barbershop world it is. So how do you explain? It's 11:11, so I'm gonna have to go. I have to do a chore. Really, I have to pay a bill. So we've looked at the Olmec art, right? We've looked at the Olmec art, right? And how can I say? Most of this doesn't look like African art. This one I'm going to click on because I want to. No, I think this is Sotheby's. So this is dealing with not just Olmec art, but I think it's dealing with. Let me just check to see if this is there's Sotheby's. Let's see. Okay, Sotheby's, what they selling? Where's Sotheby's auctioning off? So there's an Olmec heads, Olmec pieces, Olmec jade mask, right? Okay. What that looks like to me is just a human. To say that it's a Negroid, I don't know what a Negroid is, right? Olmec stone, but there's one that, okay. So like I said, this is another auction. This is another auction of African art. But when I Googled Olmec, it came up. Now, the other thing is I want to say is, I wasn't sharing it. I wasn't sharing the screen. Sorry. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Sorry. So what I was saying is, what I was doing was, because it clicked away, I was looking at Olmec art. And if that's an African where? What Africans look like this? In Mali, in Senegal, right? Well, first someone like me has been to Senegal, right? First, you not saying that me going to Senegal, I've seen everything in Senegal, but this is not Senegalese art, right? This is not Senegalese art at all. Right? It's not Malian art. Okay. So then I want them to explain what happened. I want them to explain. I don't know if that was Summers. Why is it not sharing? Okay. So I want them to explain. So again, if I was having problems sharing, this is not Malian art, Senegalese art, right? This is not this. This is South American art, right? Humans have to share the same phenotypes. sometimes share the same skin color. This is not African art, right? So the last thing I'm going to show is then we have a problem with these other groups of people. And these other groups of people is, remember, because there's a lots of variables, lots of disciplines, right? So Moche art. Let's see, Moche art. So Moche culture, as many of you know, is people, brown people, pre-Columbian, right? Some of them could be considered black, but not necessarily of the same origin of our people. And so Moche art is a very sexual art. Matter of fact, same sex, right? Let's see what happens here. So Moche art is a kind of a different culture. This is not an African culture, right? This is the purposes that they engaged in same sex and stuff like that was population control, food supply, and things like that. Let's see, where is this? Why is this not? Okay, so when I put in Moche, I'm gonna put in Moche art again, and I just give you. So what Ivan Van Sertima didn't do was compare the culture. I'll just say sexual. That's what he did not do, and this is a big problem. He didn't do a good job on language. I'm keeping the images small, but they practice a lot of same sex, a lot of anal sex, right? This I show one of it. Okay, these people are brown. That fits the criteria. Europeans might say that they're Negroid, right? Might say, but they practice a lot of same sex, particularly anal sex, right? This is not African culture. This is culture in the Americas. And the Spanish and the Portuguese, when they witnessed this, they talked about it, right? They actually talked about it. So this is not African culture. So when people want to say that these are our people or we're the same people, you have to look at cultural practices and why. And this is just simply not African culture. Yeah. So I don't want to make a big deal of it. I don't want to make a deal. This is in Peru. So when you Abos, when you want to talk about our people, you need to claim the pyramid builders because these are the pyramid builders right here. So with that said, I think I did a good job of allowing you to hear what Dr. Jeffries had to say about he's not, and the scholars that he knows, not spending any time making the Native Americans Africans. He don't have no time for that. That these are different cultures, different peoples. If you want to say that these are your people, fine. Say that these brown people that are here, that these people are your people. That's fine. If you want to say, if you want to, how can I say, you can't pick and choose. If these are your people, this is your culture. The sacrificial culture, the killing of young children and the mummifying them, where there's no evidence of that in Mali, then if that's what you want to say that these are your people, you could go ahead. But this has nothing to do with African culture, right? You can go right ahead, but please do know that I'm going to bring this up every time. I'm going to bring up the cultural comparisons every time. Please do know, if these are your people, you can't pick and choose and hide your people's culture. Please do know that, right? If that's what if you want to say that these are our people, then the sacrifices, these people are brown and some of them are dark that you might call black, but this is not African culture. Okay? And there's thousands and thousands of pieces like this. All you got to do is look up multi-sexual art. So, barbershop, this is when barbershop talk goes wrong. So I think I'm going to close out, stop sharing, and I'll look at a few chats. But y'all going to have to do more than GED work, more than Google Scholar work. You're going to have to more than barbershop or hairdressing. And I know some people on this chat that are professional barbers and hairdressers. And when it comes to their skill, they're excellent. I'm not talking about those people. They're experts. I'm talking about the barbershop scholarship, meaning what you do in the meantime of your skill set. So with that said, let me just read a few of the chats, and then I'm going to end because I have to pay a bill before. Yes, live chat. Actually have to pay. Okay. Yeah. Bell, peace. My brother Joe, peace. Tall God, Harold, peace to you. Pan-African Designs, thank you. Peace to you. Yarab, peace to you, my brother. Kwame Ra, my brother. Who else? Brother Garfield stopped by. Sister Love Son, hey, thanks for everything that you do. Thank you, sister, for checking in on me. Sister Mika, thank you for showing up. Thank you so much. My brother Born Dog, first on. Appreciate you. They look crazy, TV. Yeah, they look crazy. You right about that. Who else came on? Rakim, that's my brother right there, Rakim 777. And so, hey, if you like the show, you know my Cash App is Dollar Reginald Mabry. I appreciate that. I'm not going to be shy about asking for lunch money, right? Dinner. I'm not going to be shy about that. Why should I? Because I give you stuff that you can actually use. So with that said, I'm going to say I'm going to end the stream, and I am going to, let me see. Oh, so on some of the other shows, of course, that I like, I told you that I like, you know, I watch Super Wavy. That's my brother. He's putting on a lot of young people on. Definitely Brother Garfield's podcast. Definitely Community of Skeptics and Pseudo Killers. Definitely Smash Rockwell's show. Definitely Camtyverse. And listen, I'm not knocking any of the big shows. They're going to exist. But if you want to learn something, right? If you actually want to learn something, then there are shows that actually are a little bit better than reaction shows. Just a little bit better than a little bit better than just reaction shows, right? More connected to scholarship, right? So thanks for joining me tonight, and peace. This is ancient Mali art, just as a comparison to Mochi art. Yanamar Kekare, hope you support some of the show. So this is ancient Mali art. So why would they decide to lose this art form and connect to and transform it to Mochi and Olmec head art in 300 years? Why would they decide to do that? This type of art communicates a different value. This particular piece right here was recently at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in the African Origin and Civilization exhibit. This particular piece right here. So this is ancient West African art. Why would it just transform into that type of art, even with the Olmec head? Right. This is the area in which Mansa Musa, a predecessor, Abu Bakari, this is where he came from. This area right here. Why make this art, these people, something else in the Americas? Right? What would be their reason? So if you're going to study this subject, there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of comparison. So with that said, keep researching. Keep researching. Peace to y'all, family. Come back. I'll be streaming. I'll pick a subject and I will be streaming soon. So thank you so much. And thanks to everybody that may have contributed. I appreciate you and your time. But what Dr. Jeffries said, you can take that to the bank. And if they got an expert, or if you have any disagreements, find an expert that can compare to Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Peace.